Right.
All right, Jake, whenever you're ready, go ahead, introduce us.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wisco Fanatics Friday Night Packers Edition. That was a mouthful here. We are joined full house. Yep, here goes Simon. Just the most immature person in the room at all times. Hi, Simon. How you doing?
Hey, bud,
Alaska
what's
didn't
going
mature you at all, I see.
I'll take something Jake has never heard for 400, please.
All right. Well, this episode's starting out on par.
Do
That's all I know.
do we want to restart?
No, we're fine. We're doing fine. We're having fun. People are going to look at us and be like, look at these fools. It's fine. We're here. We're on a Friday night. We all work hard. We have long weeks. We're old men. Not as old as you two, though. I got called old all Wednesday, so now you guys are old and I'm not. So this feels much better. Anyways, we have a great episode planned for you guys. Draft recap. We did a little drafting ourselves, I'll say, with the players. So we each have 3. We're also going to do a sniper team, a team that picked players right before our picks or picked players that we really liked going into the draft. So we all have a sniper team in mind. Greg says, "Yo, guys." Yo, Greg. How you doing, buddy?
Yo.
It just makes me think of my daughter. She goes, "Yo, yo, yo." So we taught her that. Whenever she sees people, she goes, "Yo, yo, yo." So just a little 2-year-old that's 3 feet tall. You know, it's hilarious. But with that being said, Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, not bad. I've been really focused on Monday. Monday is going to be a big deal. I know the Brewers just lost, unfortunately, especially to lose in a tough way. But we're excited for when the Brewers are back home from their road trip, because Jake and I will be there on Monday as Wisco Fanatics, not just in attendance as fans. So we're really excited for that. But yeah, so you guys want to do snipers or picks first?
I'll say snipers. I like snipers. Let's do snipers first.
I agree, snipers
first. All right. So Jake, you talked a bunch, so we're gonna go to Bryant first.
Okay.
So Bryant, give me your sniper of the draft.
Okay, so I was gonna give the Bears credit, which I rarely ever do, but I really like the Darnell Wright pick. I don't know that we would have picked him at 13, but that was a really good pick. But for the snipers, I feel like they kind of got us twice. I don't know that, obviously none of us know that we would have taken Green Bay would have taken these players, but I'll go with the Carolina Panthers. They took in the second round, they took Jonathan Mingo 3 picks before us. And then again in the 5th round, they took Jamie Robinson, the safety, 3 picks right before us. And those are players we talked about extensively. I don't know that we take Mingo over Musgrave or that we take Robinson there in the 5th. But yeah, I thought that was a couple players that they took 3 picks right before us that I kind of liked.
Yeah, that's a good call. Simon, who was your draft sniper?
I took Pittsburgh. I think we were all kind of pounding our chest over Darnell Washington, and he slipped a lot further than maybe I thought he would. So I was kind of hoping, especially with how much draft capital we ended up with, that we try to trade up and go for him in the 3rd. And then they ended up taking Keanu Benton, which I was kind of high on him. I thought we could have shored up our defensive line a little bit better. But that's just my opinion. So that's kind of who I rolled with. I like both those picks.
Greg's watching on YouTube while going for a walk. Makes a solid Star Wars reference. I get it, Greg. I get it. Jake, who is your draft sniper?
I went with the Seahawks. And yes, I know that's the overall pick. Devon Witherspoon is a great pick at number 5, in my opinion. But if you would ask Packers fans who they would have taken, that's the reason why I picked the Seahawks. JSN at number 20. Get a wide receiver, get a weapon in the 1st round for Jordan Love. They take Derek Hall at number 37, an edge player. That would have been a nice pick for us as well. And then they go Zach Charbonnet at number 52. And number 108, they go Anthony Bradford. So they get a guard and they get a running back, a 3-down running back, in my opinion. Charbonnet is very underrated. He's going to be solid for the Seahawks for a long time. They have a nice 1-2 punch out there now, but yeah, I think the Seahawks had a phenomenal draft. It would have been a phenomenal draft for anybody, especially the Packers, where they were hitting our positions of need in their draft.
Yep.
Yeah, Seahawks definitely had probably a top 5 draft. I still hold that I think the Texans had the best draft. That's my opinion.
They went
Scott,
for
we
it.
don't do, as far as the Packers, how they fared in the draft. I think they did a really good job of addressing needs. I love that after Gutekunst picked a defensive player in the first round, that he went pass catcher, pass catcher, pass catcher right after that. So I actually really liked those first 4 picks. I think those are a really great start to that draft, which we'll get into individually here in a minute.
Mhm.
For my draft sniper, I went with the Cincinnati Bengals. They pissed me off twice. Once was in the 6th round. They grabbed Andre Yoshivas 1 pick before the Packers took Anders Carlson, which I'm not mad at the kicker pick, but potentially missing out on Yoshivas, who was a guy who was a sleeper for myself, and I think Simon had him as a
Yeah, I had him
sleeper as
too.
well. And then another sleeper that the Bengals took of mine was Chase Brown, one of my sleeper running backs. So the Bengals grabbed him. There's an avenue where he's their starting running back if they don't sign Ezekiel Elliott like they've been rumored to be interested in, and if Joe Mixon gets caught as a cap casualty, which is also very much in the cards. So there's an avenue where Chase Brown is the starting running back in Cincinnati. And then the last guy that I wanted to mention, a guy that Jake was higher on than anybody, but a guy that I still liked, and that's Charlie Jones. The Packers did a pretty good job, like I mentioned, with grabbing pass catchers, especially with grabbing Dontavian Wicks a little bit later. But Charlie Jones was kind of one of those guys where I felt like, he could be, a Julian Edelman type player, a reliable guy who, when you throw him a ball that's supposed to be caught, that he's catching it. Reliable is how I thought of Charlie Jones. So the Bengals grabbing a couple sleepers and a guy that I thought was a solid depth pick for them. So that's why I went with the Bengals. So as we hop into this here, I wanted to ask you guys, this is an impromptu question, but what position group after the draft are you most excited for? For me, it's the tight ends, and this is going to play into one of the aspects that I picked for the season. But Jake, what position group from the Packers are you most excited for after the draft?
Oof, put me right on the spot right away.
I put everybody on the spot. I didn't tell anybody I was asking this question.
I want to say tight ends because I feel like that's the easy answer, but to be honest with you, I'm going to go with edge because when Gary comes back, and I'm assuming Gary's just going to be back to Rashawn Gary being a freak, him and LVN could really disrupt some shit up front. That's all I know.
Simon, what about you?
I think on top of the edge too, you got Preston Smith, who's always solid, and then you could see Enikbare take another step forward. And that's a solid group of guys.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with wide receiver. I think top 2 are pretty much Watson and Dubs, and then on top of that, drafted 3 this draft, which we'll get into, and then there's been some kind of unprompted Samori Toure talk between the coaches and stuff, and it sounds like he put on 8 to 10 pounds, built up his frame a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think they're after the 2, and then you got Jaden Reed. You could probably pencil him in as 3rd, but I don't think it's guaranteed. So depending on who they keep on the roster and stuff, the 3 through 6 could be an interesting battle. See who catches snaps.
Yeah. Definitely be fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see if Bo Melton makes any noise in training camp. Yeah. But Bryant, what position are you looking forward to most after the draft?
Yeah, it's definitely the pass catchers. But I'll agree with Simon. I'm really I've watched a little more on Jaden Reed. I'm really excited about his versatility. I think he could quickly be our slot starter, and I honestly think there's a chance that he could have probably this lead, not lead the team in receptions, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if you told me right now that Jaden Reed would have the 2nd most receptions on the team this following year. I think he can be that good. If you go watch some of his tape and stuff, from what he's doing from the slot and his route running, it's disgusting how crisp of routes he runs. And then Dontavian Wicks, everyone was kind of sleeping on him because of last year. I'm telling you, 2 years ago, he was a monster. And if he would have came out that year, I think he would have got drafted a lot higher. And then Grant DuBose is a great unknown, you know what I mean? Because he's from a small school. But we talked about him in the pre-draft when you all were very excited about him, and then we go and grab him. So honestly, I've seen that the Packers brought in Kiki Kuti for a visit. I don't know the route to anyone else getting. If we only keep 6 wide receivers, we can name them right now. pretty much. I don't know the route for no other wide receiver getting on this roster unless we keep 7 on the active roster. So I'm pretty excited about the pass catchers and the wide receivers and tight ends. So
yeah, it'll be fun to watch. But we'll get into all the picks. We're gonna go through all 13 picks and basically just kind of give our thoughts, our takeaways from the picks. For me, the guys that I have, I also watched some of their interviews after they were drafted. So I'm going to start with Lucas Van Ness. I said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to lead with this, and I'll probably close with it as well. Lucas Van Ness's play style, it reminds me of J.J. Watt. I'm going to continue to say it. He's got the versatility, which very, very consistent thing by Brian Gutekunst bringing up with every single player the Packers drafted is versatility. I think he said the word versatility in his post-draft press conferences like 1,000 times. And Lucas Van Ness starts there. He can play the outside linebacker, defensive end, and they've mentioned that they could kick him inside to do defensive tackle even. He's got massive, massive hands. Jake sent me a picture of him on Mother's Day where he's like holding on to his mom, and you can see like his hands are just like he's got some of the biggest hands in NFL history.
11-inch hands, dude.
What I said to Jake, I'm like, Wreck-It Ralph.
Dude, he kind of does in the photo. I won't lie.
Does he have is Kawhi Leonard, because he has large hands too, right?
Yeah, Kawhi's got massive hands.
Do you think they're bigger?
But Kawhi Leonard's hands are like long and skinny. Like Lucas Van Ness, he does look like Wreck-It Ralph.
He's got meaty hands, dude.
Meaty hands? Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Giannis has got huge hands too.
So one of the other things that's cool about Lucas Van Ness is he's only 21. He'll be 22 in July, so he's a little bit on the younger side. So this is something that I noted was interesting with Lucas Van Ness is he ran a 4.58 40 at 276 pounds. Justin Fields ran a 4.45. So you're talking the fastest quarterback in the division is barely faster than our new defensive end, and our defensive end doesn't have to run with the ball in his hands.
True that.
So you're looking at a guy who can potentially keep up with Justin Fields. The other thing that Gutekunst liked about him was his experience rushing inside and out. That just calls in that versatility again. And then Joe Barry in his post-draft, this is pre-training camp press conference, he said that he likes Lucas Van Ness, and he believes that Lucas Van Ness will grow into an absolute monster. Which, I mean, with J.J. Watt being a comparison player for me, I mean, if he gets close to that level of play, this would be a fantastic pick for the Packers. Now, I want to say one disclaimer thing about Lucas Van Ness is that so many people are overreacting to the fact that he wasn't a starter. Yeah, not noticing the fact that over the last 2 seasons, he played more than 1,000 snaps. That's a lot of snaps. So he played the Lions' share of snaps. He played the important snaps, the late game scenarios, things like that. So people are making such a big deal about the not being a starter thing. It's really not that big of a deal. Prefer a starter, I'd rather have a finisher. Guy who's finishing the games, making the big plays at the right times. So that's where I'm at with Lucas Van Ness. Is there anything you guys wanted to add on LVN?
Simon, Brian?
No, go ahead, Simon.
Oh yeah, for those that really, I guess, don't know or didn't know, that's just the way that Iowa does things. Like They prefer to start their more senior guys start, quote unquote, because he still ended up out snapping both the guys that started over him. So, and he outproduced both of them. So when it comes to that, it doesn't matter.
The thing that I'm going to say is, and Tyler, you brought it up, that they could play him at D-tackle, DN, standing up. That was the reason that I wanted him when everybody else in Packer Nation, I'm not saying you guys, but, you look on Twitter, you look on Facebook, you look anywhere, everybody was like, JSN's the pick. I'm like, I don't know, man.
People got hyper fixated on that.
I'm like, I don't know, man. This LVN dude, you can flip him anywhere. Like, imagine putting him at D-tackle You have him and Kenny at D tackle. You can still have Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary on the field at the same time. I mean, you can still blitz Quay up the middle. I mean, there's so many options now with him on the field because he could put his hand in the ground over the guard, So I love the versatility of LVN.
So that's the same thing I was going to say was the versatility. And I'll talk a little bit more about it with my pick that I have later on of Carl Brooks. I think the Packers are going to be changing up their line a lot and throwing a lot of looks, and LVN and Carl Brooks are going to be a big part of that. I think this rotation is going to be nasty. So I'll talk more about it.
The defensive line depth has improved massively. Very exciting for that.
I think like if you get in like a 3rd and long, some of those like sub packages and stuff could get real freaky. Like if you put Kenny as like the 1 down lineman and just have like our 4 pass rushers and maybe drop, and then even put Quay Walker in there to rush the pass because he has some ability too. Like some of those packages can get really interesting. Yeah,
because you could literally drop LVN into coverage at that point because he's just as fast as like whatever tight end he'd be covering. Yeah. So that's like you could have no idea where the pass rush is coming from.
I mean, the guy's nickname is Hercules, dude. Come on.
The dude is insanely ripped. Like it's ridiculous. Greg said any Midwestern football fan knows Iowa rewards seniors with starts. That's absolutely true.
Yep.
Mike said he posted an awesome story about Tucker Kraft growing up. I will have to check that out. Tucker Kraft is a guy who's like acclimating to being in Wisconsin like faster than anybody I've ever seen. We're going to go to the second pick. We're going to go to Bryant, who has Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, so Luke Musgrave is a really fun player. A lot of people are looking at his production in college, and they're not thrilled with it or they're not impressed by it because of due to injury. But one of the things that you see the Packers doing a lot are looking for players who dominate at the Senior Bowl. Both Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave did that. True. So for Luke Musgrave, he has all the tools to be explosive receiving tight end. And is actually a better blocker than people are giving him credit for. So before his injury last year, he played 2 games last year. In those 2 games, he was injured in that second game. He had 11 receptions for 169 yards, which is over a 15-yard reception average, and a touchdown in those 2 games. So like I said, he was absolutely dominant at the Senior Bowl. So he hit a top speed of over 20 miles per hour. So, he's 6 foot, for reference, he's 6'6", 255 pounds. His 40 time at the combine was only 4.61, but at the Senior Bowl, he hit over 20 miles per hour, which would put him in the 4.4 range. So that tells me once he gets going up the field, he's quick. So the Senior Bowl executive director said that Musgrave graded out as the best combination of size and speed at the event. Like I said, Musgrave had the 16th fastest max speed at Mobile, hitting 20.05 miles per hour. So the next heavy, like I said, he's 255 pounds. The next heaviest person to hit over 20 miles an hour was 231 pounds. So he has 24 pounds on the next fastest person, or the person that run faster than him. So his route run, he runs great routes. He's slippery in coverage. So he actually has, I don't know if you guys know this, but he has an extensive background in cross-country skiing. And for cross-country skiing, you're moving your hips a lot. So it's helped with basically where when he's on the line, he can do like a quick 2-yard sidestep and get back up the field really quickly because he's so used, like his hips are probably more like
fluid
or more, fluid than people realize. So it's a lot harder to jam him. So his RAS score is a 9.94. So he's super athletic. And I think he's going to be a very serious receiving threat. And he was compared to like Dallas Goedert. So if he can hit Dallas Goedert status, that's going to be an amazing pick for us because that's a serious threat. Like I said, 6'6", 255 and runs that fast. Like he's going to be a big problem. So I'm pretty excited about Luke Musgrave.
Greg said, I hope Brooks sticks to the weight room because I'm really focused on his opportunity because his RAS was fairly poor. His tapes are impressive. I think the Packers are focus a little bit less on RAS in those middle rounds, and that's where they start to focus more on fit, just best player available, and then kind of potential. So I think that's kind of where they start to get in those middle rounds.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that, Greg, later on. So
yeah, Simon has him. So Greg also said that Green Bay timed Dontavian Wicks at 4.37. Simon has Dontavian Wicks, so we'll get to that one too. But we're going to go to the next pick. It was
Jaden Reed that was blocked at 4.37.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wicks was a little slower, which I'll get into too.
Okay. All right, Simon, go ahead, talk about Jaden Reed.
Yeah, so Jaden Reed, round 2, pick 50. So we originally owned pick 45, but traded back twice, which ended up resulting in 159 to 157. So that was good. Just I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. Trade backs,
Mhm.
getting a couple picks.
Who ended up
and,
being those players again?
Dontavian Wicks, and I forget who 179 was. Was it Carl Brooks?
Yeah, I believe so.
Carl Brooks
So
was
basically, we
179.
turned that 45 into 50. Those 3 players. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah. So honestly, this was kind of like the first surprise player for me. And if you guys were watching during the draft, I was not excited, I guess, for this pick. I thought maybe he could have been there in the third, but that's just also my opinion. I don't know where scouts and stuff and whatever GMs thought maybe he was a round two pick. But the more you watch him, the more excited you can get over this guy. And honestly, he seemed a little bit out of the norm for what Green Bay likes in their wide receivers. He's a little bit under 6 feet. He's 5'11", only weighs 187 pounds. Usually Green Bay goes for those 6 foot plus, a little over 200-pound guys. He only had an RAS of 6.61, but this was the guy that Green Bay clocked at 4.37. So he has elite speed. At the combine, he clocked a 4.45, which is still pretty good for a wide receiver. In 2020, he had 197 slot snaps and 60 on the outside, 7 games, 34 catches on 52 targets, 407 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And you'll see kind of a theme as I'm running through my guys is their 2021 tape, they dominated. And then they kind of fell off a little bit in 2022. So I think Green Bay really tried to bite on their 2021 elite gameplay with these 3 guys that I'm talking about. So in 2021, he played 65 slot snaps and then played 345 out wide. And this was at Western Michigan before he transferred to Michigan State. And he played 13 games, 59 receptions on 101 targets for 1,026 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then fell off a little bit in 2022, and he played 84 slot snaps, 291 outside in 11 games, 55 catches on 84 targets, 636 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And that was just in a porous Michigan State offense. Like, they were pretty bad last year.
They're definitely a run-first team. I will say, as far as his size goes, if people are concerned about his size, he plays bigger than he is.
I'm getting
That's one of the things I noticed right away. And I'm kind of like Simon with Jayden Reed. I didn't look much into him because he doesn't hit the marks that Green Bay typically looks for. But I don't know if you guys watched Bazareski, but he had a really good video on Jayden Reed too, talking about his separation and stuff. He broke it down really well. And he shows like how much separation and stuff that Jayden Reed can get. And now he plays bigger in his size. And then he talks about how quarterback play was really poor at Michigan State. So if they would have had a better quarterback, like he could have absolutely lit up the box score. So
we kind of talked about his, like, he's a very crisp route runner too. And I would say when we drafted him, I thought maybe he was kind of an slot only guy, but he played a surprising amount of snaps on the outside. So I think Green Bay kind of liked him for that, a little bit of versatility too. And going back to what Tyler said about him playing bigger than he is, he had a 64% contested catch rate last year. So, like, he can get up and get balls. And also, I don't think he's the best blocker, but I think he's an aggressive, like, he tries to go out and block. And,
Willing.
Yeah, willing. That's the word I was looking for. Good. Yeah. So I'm kind of excited about what he can do for us in this offense.
I remember during the draft, like, it was Ludus Riddick or someone said that it was like oh my gosh, Steve Smith-esque, like how he played. Like, yeah. I'm not going to say he's going to be Steve Smith, but if he's our family Steve Smith, like, that's still a steal.
Listening to you talk about it, it's listening to, he played a little bit inside, a little bit outside. He's a little bit smaller. He plays bigger than he is. It kind of sounds like Romeo Doubs, honestly. A guy that you can use in multiple ways, and we'll just slap the versatility tag on another guy. So yeah. All right. So next one is Tucker Kraft, and that is Jake's first guy.
Yes. So with the third round, 78th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers decided to draft a perfect RAS score of 10, by the way, Tucker Kraft. And that made it the first time the Packers have selected 2 tight ends within the first 3 rounds in team history. So the more you know. Little tidbits on him that I like. First of all, I love the early chemistry between him and Musgrave. They seem like best friends already. Like, they did an interview together, the Rock Report or whatever it's called. I watched them on there. They're just laughing, goofing around. I'm like, dude, these guys have been friends for like 10 years. No, they just met at the Senior Bowl. But,
Tucker Kraft already loves Culver's, so
yeah, these guys are going to be great. They're going to be great Packers. I could tell this already. Yeah. They fit right into the culture. He's 6'5", 254, so he's not quite as impressive as Musgrave. Just an inch shorter and a pound lighter. So sorry about that. Over the last 2 seasons, he had 92 catches, 1,111 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the Jackrabbits. I mean, he got offered some big time schools. He decided to stay loyal, stay to his hometown team. So I love that. Loyalty is a big thing for Wisconsin fans. Yeah. Tyler knows that. Yep. We're usually the small market. We're usually the teams that people look over, like the Brewers. Everybody's like, we're going to go to the Dodgers. We're going to go to the Yankees. Like, you know, and the Bucks, like, little old Milwaukee. Giannis is going to leave. He's going to go here, right? We always get that. Wisconsin Badgers, everybody looks us over because they're going to go to Michigan or Ohio State. So loyalty is so big for us. We just grow up knowing that, like, we're probably going to rent these players for like 6 years and they're going to leave. But hopefully that's not the case with these guys. So
Alabama is one of those big time schools, by the way. That was the main one that stood out to me, that he turned down Alabama.
Yes. So the things that stood out to me, first of all, he's a physical player. You could tell in his running style. You could tell in his blocking. He loves to block. It just seems like that. He really looks like Baby Gronk to me. I don't know if he looks like that to anybody else, but his ability when he runs after the catch, he's not afraid of people coming at him. The stiff arm kind of reminds me of Gronkowski. I'm not going to lie to you. And I learned this about him. He was a running back in high school. Imagine 6'5", 250 in high school, dude. At 16, dude, I'm running away from you. I'm running with you. Fuck it, go to the end zone. You know what I'm saying?
Go through you.
Yeah, you go to the end zone. I'm not getting hurt today. So, he's just going to be an exciting player. I think a lot of 2 tight end sets, 12 personnel, as LaFleur talked about. A lot of 12 personnel is going to be happening this year. A lot of play action off that. So I know my boy Tyler's going to love that.
Mm-hmm.
And the red zone offense is definitely going to be better this year with the 2 tight ends. And I'm going to make a bold prediction. One of these 2 tight ends is going to have the second most receptions on this team. The guy who's going to have the most is going to be Watson. He's going to get looked at the most.
Yep.
Either Kraft or Musgrave is going to have the second most catches. I really feel like that. They're close to the line of scrimmage. They're the dump off. They're the safety valves.
Bold.
I really feel.
We talked about doing expanded stat projections this year. Last year we did just like the main playmakers. And we talked about doing expanded ones this year and doing like a whole stat projection episode. So if we do that and we stat project more players and more depth out, it's going to be really interesting to see where the 4 of us come down on the tight ends and some of the more depth wide receivers. I think it'll be very interesting.
So for Tucker Kraft, I do think that he has a potential to make the most immediate impact because I feel like he's a little bit more NFL ready than Musgrave. I think Musgrave has a higher ceiling, but Kraft has a lower floor, if that makes sense. I mean, the higher floor. So I think Musgrave's a higher ceiling player and Kraft is a higher floor player. But I think they complement each other a lot. And what they kind of remind me of is several years ago when we picked, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams right by each other. Like it seems like they instantly have that chemistry. Yeah. And like they could be that kind of 1-2 punch for Green Bay. So one of them's like more the home run hitter, which don't get me wrong, Kraft can do that as well. But then the other one's a bigger bowling ball, kind of like Jamal was. So I think it's going to be a fun combination.
I got to bring one thing back: the pregame dances. That's all I want.
Yeah,
if they bring the pregame dancing back, I'm in.
I don't know if anyone can get down like Jamal Williams. I still go and watch his pregame dances, like even with his Detroit or now.
I like watching his interviews more. He's talking about Pokemon.
He said Pokemon.
I love that him as a player. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad he's not on the Lions anymore. Good for him.
Yeah.
He's still coming to Green Bay though this year.
Right. I'll say as far as I do agree with the statement that the Packers are going to run a lot of 12 personnel this year. A lot of it. I think that's kind of a Matt LaFleur type thing. And these two picks, really, the two tight end picks, despite Darnell Washington being available at 42 and the Packers picked Luke Musgrave, these two tight ends that were drafted really felt to me like Matt LaFleur influenced picks because they fit the scheme and the system better.
I think it was important that they both have. I think Darnell Washington can be a receiving tight end, but I think it was important that he wanted them both to have, proven receiving ability.
Well, the word of the day is versatility. So they both have
yeah,
versatility.
slap the label
this whole
on there.
draft.
Let's put it
this whole
over under.
draft
How many
class.
times are we saying it today?
Well, I mean, you can pretty much say it for every single player. So,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
That's
I love
what
it.
I said.
I love it.
Except for Anders Carlson, he's only doing one thing.
Mm-hmm. You don't know that?
Hopefully
kicking.
making the field goals.
Hey, I was gonna wait this till we talked about him, but I feel a little vindicated because you guys gave me so much crap for saying we should take Jake Moody in like the 6th or 7th. Jake Moody went in the 3rd round.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
That doesn't make me
make it a
feel
good-
better. It doesn't make me feel better.
And the only reason we drafted Anders Carlson there is because Andrei Yoshivas got picked the pick before.
Copium.
Greg said, who knows, maybe Love's biggest adjustment will be to decide which wide receiver is more open. Honestly, I think the thing that's going to be Jordan Love's biggest adjustment is really just trusting his instincts. That's, to kind of paraphrase, Eric Lauer when he was throwing his zoom ball last year, just saying, let that bitch zoom. Like Matt LaFleur just wants him to let it go, to reference a Bucks thing, let it fly. Like just take your drops. You see it, do it. So that's what my thing is. I think
kind of like
Jordan
what he
Love
did against Philly, really. If you go watch that tape, he was doing that. He was hitting his 3 or 5 set drops and the ball was out of his hands.
Yep.
So for most of them, a couple of he scrambled and made a throw on, but.
And I got super excited when Matt LaFleur was talking and Adam Stenovich actually a little bit too in the recent interviews, how they're excited with Jordan Love and with Aaron Rodgers not having the thumb injury last year, and that they can do more under center stuff and not having to have Rodgers in the shotgun so much. Because the thing that he said was for the first four steps of the drop back, you don't know if it's a run or pass. And that's where I'm like, yes, let's run a shit ton of play action. So I love play action. I love it.
Play action of Watson? What?
Oh, dude.
Just let it go, Love. Him
You're
and his
gonna get me
noodle arm, right?
What?
All right. So next guy on the draft is Colby Wooden. That's the guy that I had. I watched his interviews yesterday. And the thing that he kept coming back to was technique. He referenced technique often. He's not just a physical guy, but he's very in tune with the mental part of the game as well. So that stood out to me when listening to him talk. He's talking about pad level and hand placement, playing out of a 3 technique or a 4 technique, wanting to learn as much as possible from guys like Kenny Clark. I'm really impressed with how he gets off of blocks and how he finds his way back into plays that it looks like he's out of. So, we've liked guys. I've been a big Jack Heflin fan because the guy's got an unrelentless motor. He gets back into plays that it looks like he's out of. He doesn't give up on plays. So that's something that Colby Wooden has. He brought up being willing to be a special teams guy, whatever gets him on the field. He said his role with Green Bay that they told him is going to be primarily inside, but he did say, and they also reiterated that he can play outside to help with the depth. So another guy, just slap the old versatility sticker on there, and we're good to go.
I like it.
James said preseason in 3 months. Woo, man, it's gonna come up fast because planning out shows, man, it's gonna come up so fast, and then it's gonna be like, shit, it's August already. Damn,
And then you get all the preseason games are great, but I honestly like the training camp highlights and the training camp, we all follow the beat writers and stuff, just the
hype train
synopsis
going.
of the day and stuff like that. I love reading all that stuff. So
I'm excited to see who's going to be we should maybe make a prediction on this. Who's going to be the Romeo Dobbs training camp hype train guy this year? That'd be an interesting thing to see if we can predict it. And
definitely Samari Toure right now.
We'll see.
Out of
You
this
can't
draft
watch
class,
an interview and he doesn't come up, dude. Seriously.
out of this draft class,
I'm writing this down. I'm writing it down. There it goes. Right now.
So
out of this draft class, it'll be Grant DuBose.
I was just messing around on my phone today, and I was watching some Samori Toure stuff, and he was cooking people like wide open. I'm just thinking to myself, like, Love is letting that go. Love is throwing that ball. Love is letting that go. He's cooking people from the slot. He's cooking people outside. I'm like, Love's slinging it this year, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
The
telling
big thing
you.
was
He's
Aaron.
going to make some mistakes, but he's slinging that thing.
Aaron
Oh, yeah.
hated targeting the middle of the field, and I don't
I
think
know.
Jordan's going to do that. So I remember, like I said, I'll keep tooting my own horn, but like when I was at that Washington game and I seen Samori Toure get on the field, I was like, who the heck is that? Because he was flying, and like, because you could see it in person, like how fast he was. And then he, you know, I think later in the Buffalo game, he had that touchdown on a good broken play and stuff like that. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. We'll see what happens. I don't know that he'll ever be some like crazy, but if he tacks on 400 or 500 yards, that's huge. What we're looking for right now.
If he has 500 yards, dude, that is a steal.
Oh, yeah. James said I'm excited for the preseason because the NFL is arguably the longest offseason in sports. I will say it's a long offseason, but the thing is, there's a lot going on during the offseason that keeps up the hype.
Yeah, OTAs start next week.
Yeah,
NFL is king is because they've found a way to make their sport year round, even when they're not in season. Because you have the schedule release, you have the draft, you have the combine, you have all of this stuff. So so I feel like that we all love football so much that we're like, oh, hurry up with the season. I just want to watch football again. Because like we all know that feeling, like the next Sunday, like after our team isn't playing anymore, we're like, man, this sucks. But like
222 days until football is back.
Yeah, exactly. So
all right. So the next guy is Sean Clifford. Jake has him. Go ahead.
Wait,
Jake.
can I go back really quick to Kobe Wooden?
Go ahead.
Answer a text. I think this pick is very interesting just because of his size. Because he's kind of a weird tweener, and I don't know where they're going to play him. Because he's 6'4", 273.
Everywhere.
I know, but like, is that
his like primary
the
position
right
you're
answer?
talking?
Because like he's kind of, I don't know. Maybe he's a little big for the outside, or maybe
He said primary. He's going to be inside.
Yeah, but then I assume they're going to try to make him bulk up then, because if you stick him on the like straight on the line at 273, I feel like he's not gonna. I don't want to say he's not gonna be good because he could be, but I think it would just be very weird.
I think it was Colby Wooden that they were talking about that he was planning on like getting into weight room and starting to add weight. I know there was one other guy that they were talking to about that too.
I mean, for reference, Preston Smith is 6'5", 265. So I mean, it's what did you say? Colby Wooden was
273, 6'4", 273.
Yeah, so he's within that ballpark.
This is 275, and he plays outside.
So I think they're just going to move him all over the line.
Then could you realistically add him to the outside and him make the team then? Because then look who's ahead of him.
I think it's going to be by a
neglecting
matchup
the defensive line.
They're going to do it by like a matchup basis. They're going to put a strength side. He's probably going to be on the weak side.
I just thought it was
probably have LVN and Gary on one side. Create that.
Colby Wooden's going to be competing with. He's going to be competing with Chris Slayton, and Jonathan
Ford. Sticking him on the defensive line, and you have to bulk him up at least a little bit.
I think
if you stick him in there at like 285, 290, I think he'll be fine.
I think a lot of these guys are going to add muscle once they get into NFL conditioning and training in weight rooms and stuff. So, all righty, Jake. Sean Clifford, go ahead.
All right. So, this was crazy when I found this out. So, he leads in all these categories at Penn State. Wins, 32. I understand we don't really agree with quarterback wins, but he leads in that category. Yards.
Fits the narrative, right, Jake?
10,661 yards, 86 passing touchdowns. He also added 15 rushing touchdowns, so he has a little bit of wiggle in there. 61 completion percentage and total yards 11,734. He leads Penn State in all that. That's crazy to me. And what I learned from watching his tape, because I was like, I didn't do a lot of research on quarterbacks this year because I was like, Jordan Love, he's the guy. Yep. I don't know. We're going to take some guy late in the draft. Ended up being Sean Clifford, right?
Yep.
So I'm watching more of his tape. This is what I got from it. He's a gamer, and he's a freaking winner. And I like all of those things from my backup quarterback. A guy that's going to come to practice. He's going to give you 100% because, he cares. And this is just a little random tidbit. You got Aaron Rodgers' old locker. I don't know why people care about that. It's literally just a locker. Literally just a locker. Just like the numbers thing. People freak out about numbers. It's literally just a number, people.
Yep.
You can
Can't
buy the
retire them
jersey
all.
of the person you like, okay? Just buy a Devontae Adams jersey if you like 17 with Adams on the back. That's all I got to tell you.
I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
I got one too. And my girlfriend has one because I liked him. He was cool for us, But
Nice.
He's still
that's
cool.
what it is.
He's still cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still cool.
Bro, he was talking sideways about Rodgers. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know.
That was a little
I didn't
shot.
Really care.
I feel like
He
that was a
taking more
shot.
shots at the Vegas front office than anything, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
he really was. But
I don't know. I took that a little bit different than. It seemed like he was taking a shot at people who thought Rodgers made him rather than Rodgers himself.
Yeah.
But if
That's
you think
true.
about the situation he was in, right? Second year, he was bad. Like let's call it
Oh,
spade
yeah,
a spade,
of
right?
course.
He was horrible. He was horrible that second year. So Rodgers working with him probably did get him to that point. I'm not saying he didn't do some work, but let's.
I think
he also had a really strong season with Brett Hundley at quarterback. So
yeah,
I
but that
think-
was.
I'm thinking more of the now than. I didn't see the full interview. I really couldn't care less, to be honest.
No,
I think Vegas is going to be terrible this year.
I hope they're terrible on one Monday night. That's all I care about.
Around yo.
On the Sean Clifford subject, his pre-draft visit with Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, his IQ really impressed them. They both brought it up in their post-draft interviews. And what I wanted to say with the top 30 draft visits is that it's not who your team would pick if they had all 30 of the top picks. That's not the point of the top 30 pick thing. The top 30 pick draft visits. You're not trying to meet who you would pick 1 through 30. It's who, if you were the Green Bay Packers and you had 30 picks, who are you trying to take with those 30 picks while 31 other teams are also picking players? So I wanted to throw that out there, not because the Packers were interviewing Sean Clifford. He wasn't going to go top 30. That's not what the top 30 visit means. So I wanted to put that little disclaimer out there.
even
other thing that I
Gutekunst said
wanted
that,
to
like
say-
that's what they use those visits for. So I don't
Right,
know why people
right.
still get confused about that.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I probably should have thrown that out there a little bit
Did
sooner.
any other?
maybe
I haven't
before the draft.
actually looked at it. Did any other top 30 visits get picked by the Packers? Was Kraft the
Jaden
top
Reed, I
30?
believe, was a top 30 visit.
I thought they had
Lucas Van
Musgrave
Ness,
in.
I'm pretty sure was a visit.
I think Kraft was a visit too.
Dontavian
Yeah.
Wicks definitely was a visit. He
They,
was in there. I know he was.
Grant Dubose a visit too? I think he was.
I don't remember if he
I
was.
don't. Hold on one second. Just keep talking. I'll find it.
Okay, the last thing I had on Sean Clifford was the fact that Sean Clifford went at 149 and Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback from Purdue, who is objectively terrible, went at 135.
Yeah, people were mad about the Clifford pick, which I didn't understand.
So a lot. It
We'll
all
do a
goes
big-
back to where people think people are going to get drafted. So a lot of
Right.
people did not have Clifford getting drafted at all, and so that's the thing. And my thing with the draft and where people are projected, that doesn't matter. Like what matters is the person works out or not. That's literally all that matters.
Yep.
So if the Packers felt like he was going to be our backup quarterback for a while and they liked what he brought to the table, which is a lot of experience, a lot of intelligent play, and help Jordan Love get ready for game days and stuff and have that, then that's what they thought, and it was a good draft pick.
And I think with a guy like Clifford, he is the type of player, like Jake brought up the fact that he had 15 rushing touchdowns at Penn State. He is a guy who could step in if, say, Jordan Love got hurt and play a similar play style, play a similar role. Just, looking at it on paper, doesn't have as high of a ceiling.
Tell me if I'm crazy. A little Taylor Heineke like.
That's fair.
I could see
You
that.
feel comfortable with him
Yeah.
starting for 2 games.
He does have a
Yeah.
little bit of athleticism too.
Yeah, he's got a little
He
wiggle,
runs
man. I was
all
like,
over.
That's a very solid comparison.
I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
oh my
And
god.
he's a very good backup.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke is one of the better backups in the league.
we
Alright,
all
so
talked about
here's
that. We
who
would
I
love to
got.
have him in Green Bay as Jordan Love's backup. All of us did. We all were agreement on that. So definitely a good thing to bring up, Jake. The next guy is Dontavian Wicks, and that is Simon's guy.
All right, since I have it up though, Carl Brooks, Dontavian Wicks, Lou Nichols, Sean Clifford, all had top 30 visits.
Nice.
So those were, and all the other ones are like, it's funny. Like Michael Mayer, Darnell Wright, Kincaid, Washington, Will McDonald, Felix and Nukadike, Zama, all those guys. Interesting.
That tells me they did their homework on edge and tight end.
Yep, which is not surprising considering how we drafted.
Yep.
All right, Dontavian Wicks. Interesting player, another 2021 phenom that had kind of a disappointing 2022. So round 5, pick 159. So like I said earlier, we traded back out of 45, and this was one of the picks that we got. Dontavian Wicks, 6'1", 6'2", 205. He had a 9.49 RAS. 2021 graded a 78.8 according to PFF. 69 slot snaps, 321 outside, 12 games, 59 receptions on 93 targets for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. So
Jesus,
over a 20 yards per catch average. So that is just
his main problem was drops.
Yep.
And then you bring up that large yardage, yards after catch. Tell me Dontavian Wicks doesn't just basically sound like MVS.
I think he's a better route runner than
right.
As far as numbers wise, sure. As far as play style wise, it's a lot different. 2022 fell off a little bit, 59 PFF grade. Only played 28 slot snaps and 287 outside. So he's pretty much only an outside wide receiver. 8 games, 30 catches on 72 targets for 430 yards and only 2 touchdowns. So this is another guy that had a crazy 2021 campaign and kind of fell down to earth. I mean, you could use a lot of excuses for why things were the way they are. Coaching changes, offensive changes, struggled to learn the playbook a little bit. And he had a I'm not even going to say his drop percentage out loud. It's fucking gross. He had 9 drops in the first 5 games.
Oh, that's not great.
Yeah. So
you keep bringing this up, Simon, with guys that struggled in the year they came out but were good the year before. Does that ring any bells with any other players that the Packers drafted?
Jordan Love.
Yep, that's the one.
True. Yep.
That's the first one I thought of.
Exactly. Every time you say that, I keep thinking like Jordan Love, man, his season before the year that he
was cooking, and he also had coaching changes too.
Yeah, and personal changes.
The whole entire starting offense, other than him, left, and his offense coordinator and his offensive QB coach, everyone left the next year.
So, like I was saying, he's a little different. He's also has really crisp route running ability. He can create separation of the line. Has elite acceleration. He doesn't really have the home run speed, but he has the body control and explosive jump ability to high point balls. And then obviously he has really good yak ability.
Anybody else want to say anything about Dontavian Wicks?
No, I'm really excited for this preseason. I know I said we don't, I'm more excited about the, training camp practice and stuff, but I'm really excited to see these guys get on the field too, because there's some exciting young players on this team.
So the thing with preseason is, as Packer fans, it's been like all backups always playing in the preseason. It's not a lot of guys that are going to be seeing a lot of playing time that are playing a lot in the preseason. This year is going to be different. The Packers are very young now. Very young.
The people you see not getting many snaps will be like your David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, and Aaron Jones.
Clark.
Do you guys think that Love played in all 3 preseason games?
He might not play in the last one, but
seeing amounts.
Yeah, I think his peak will be the game 2, and then he'll probably put maybe a quarter of game 1, half game 2, and then maybe a series or 2 game 3 would be my guess.
I would switch game 1 and 2. I think he'll play like half of game 1, a quarter of game 2, and like 2 or 3 series in game 3.
I agree with Tyler. I think he's going to play a lot early, and they'll trickle it down. They'll give Sean Clifford more snaps later.
And Etling.
Yep.
So
All
they'll
right,
watch them run for long touchdowns.
Our next one is Carl Brooks. This one is for Bryant, so I will let Bryant talk about Carl Brooks.
Yeah, so Carl Brooks is a pretty interesting player. So his biggest knock is going to be his level of competition he played. But when you see someone that plays a lower level of competition, you want to see that they dominated. And Carl Brooks seriously dominated. So he came into that team as an 18-year-old and started right away. And he led his team in sacks 4 of the 5 years he was there. The only year he didn't lead his team in sacks was they played like 2 games because of COVID, and he still had 2 sacks in those games. So like I said, he's been starting since he was 18. He just turned 23 in May, so he's still kind of young. So in 2022, he started 13 games. He posted 50 tackles, 18 of them were for loss, and 10 sacks. And then he also had 2 forced fumbles. So you want to guess how many pressures he finished with in 2022?
69.
69.
No.
That was 69 pressures and 386 pass rush snaps.
That's
So he was he was pressuring the quarterback 1 out of every 5.6 snaps, pass rushing snaps.
I'm not gonna lie, that setup felt too good, bro.
Yeah. So he finished his career with 28 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles. So I know I'm not huge in PFF grades, but his PFF grade for last year was a 93, which was number 1 against. They graded him as an edge rusher. So 93, it was number 1 against edge rushers, 3rd overall on defense, and 6th overall in college football is where he was rated. So he possesses good snap quickness, footwork, violent hand usage, and an extremely high motor. Like someone I was watching talk about him said basically there was plays that you'd see his hands on his hips, but then the next play he would still bring the same amount of effort and he would just bulldoze you. This is a player that's going to be really versatile because I don't know where they're going to play him because I know we're saying that a lot, but he's 6'3", anywhere between 298 and 303. So you think interior, but he played a lot on the edge in college. So it's going to be interesting. If I was Green Bay, I would let him play at his size this year and then maybe tailor him because I think they could go add another 10 pounds and play in the interior all the time or cut 10 pounds and play more on the edge. But I think at his size right now on running downs, they can probably play him at the edge, and I think he could shed some people and help in the run game. Or even if it's a pass play, he has good pass rushing ability. This player, someone said earlier his RAS wasn't that good. Yeah, you're correct, but a 5.8 RAS still means he had a higher athletic score than 58% of the people entering the NFL. So it's not like it was terrible either. It just wasn't, it wasn't 10 like Tucker Kraft or 9.94 like Luke Musgrave or whatever, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what they do for him. I'm pretty excited to see this. This will be a player I'll for sure have my eyes on during preseason because I want to see where they're lining him up and where he's getting pressure from and everything like that because he could be a monster. And I feel like they could roll out if all these players prove capable of at least being on the field, the different pressure packages and the different lineups they can roll out there, offense coordinators might not know who's going to be rushing from where. And that's going to be pretty interesting and fun to watch.
And the thing will be is the next set of downs or like I shouldn't even say the next set of downs, but like the next down, you could have 4 different guys in that you didn't have in on the previous play.
Yeah.
They
could literally roll out Carl Brooks, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, and Kenny Clark out on the field, and you'd assume Carl Brooks and Kenny Clark would be on the inside. They could line up on the outside because both of them have the capability of rushing from the edge. So it's going to be fun to watch.
For sure. I like your point on they can use it as like a find it out year. And with this being the 179th pick, you're not drafting a guy who's going to, necessarily start for you or play a ton of snaps for you. Obviously, if he does, elevate to that level, but if you're looking at a guy who's potentially going to help your depth in the future, using this year as a find it out year, whether he makes the team or is on the practice squad, that's something that could potentially help you down the road.
Exactly.
So,
unless there's a bunch of injuries, I doubt he plays more than 200 snaps this year. So I think it would be really good just to see him get on the field, see what he does in preseason. And obviously, if he starts producing, we're going to have to put him on the field. But obviously, Devontae Wyatt is going to start getting those snaps. I'm really excited about him. I guess he looks just like a monster. They were saying like he's been there pretty much every day. So
He feels like a
Pretty
rookie.
excited about him.
He barely
Yeah.
played last year.
Yeah, which was crazy because when he started playing towards the end of the year, you're like, why was this dude not on the field more?
Seriously.
Right?
I was like, what
It
is
was
going on?
for him. It was stuff up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were getting him a little more matured. But yeah, I definitely like your point on using this year as a find it out year to bulk him up or lean him down to move him in or out. Definitely
And
a
then
good point.
next year, everyone can fuck around and they can find out.
Exactly. Proportionally, of course.
Do it at your own risk. That's all I say.
Could you imagine rolling out like what if you roll just a big beefy line of like Carl Brooks, Wooden, Devontae Wyatt, and Kenny Clark?
Well, see, this thing, I've always wanted this. Do you guys remember when Baltimore Ravens, when they had Ray Lewis back in the day, they would put like 6 guys on one side of the line, and you would not know who's coming. The Packers have loaded up on the front 7 so much the last 2 years. I really feel like they can get away with this.
Imagine a scenario where you're looking at, a defensive end, and then right next to him is Lucas Van X and Rashawn Gary.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm serious, bro. You gotta be shitting yourself.
Being like, bro, what do I do?
If they stand up,
you just
Gary
jump
and Van Ness
sideways
next
and
to
hope
each
they all
other,
run
dude,
into you.
I'm praying for that, dude, because that's
Yeah.
going to be a beautiful thing. Let him stunt.
So
Because
Carl
Gary can
Brooks,
still rush him inside.
So Carl
Oh.
Brooks last year when he had 10 sacks, a lot of his snaps came on edge, and he did that standing up. He didn't have his hand in the ground. So he was 6'3", 303 pounds standing up and rushing from that position. So, and the one time they played bigger competition was Mississippi State, but I guess in that he wasn't very effective in that game, but it was because he was being double or triple teamed the entire time. So Mississippi State obviously knew, well, this is Bowling Green. The only player that we have to worry about is Carl Brooks. So.
Alrighty. So Bryant's favorite pick of the draft was the fact that we drafted a kicker. So Jake has Anders Carlson. Talk about the kicker pick.
Okay, first of all, he's gigantic. Okay, he's 6'5", 218. He has no business being that damn big. Okay, that's the first thing I noticed. Now, the next thing I noticed, obviously, everybody's heard this about 17 billion times. His brother is Daniel Carlson. If
What?
You didn't hear. Yep.
Who?
Seriously? I
Yep.
didn't know
If
that.
you didn't hear, the first team All-Pro, that's his brother. Yep.
Man, did he play for Rich Bisaccia?
Did
No.
he play for the Vikings?
Yep.
He did. And then they cut him, and then he became an All-Pro.
Yep.
I know, that's why I mentioned it.
He knows Anders, and he actually brought it up during his press conference on Wednesday that he remembers when Daniel Carlson came to do his visit at Auburn, and then Anders, who was 14 years old at the time, was with him and just remembering the little kid. So he remembered him from that time. So there is a Rich Bisaccia connection there.
That's actually pretty sick, to be honest.
Think about Anders was probably in Las Vegas kicking in that stadium with his brother.
Right.
I can see that. So 2020, Simon keeps talking about dominant 2021 seasons with his guys. For Anders, it was 2020. He was really, really good that year. He made 20 of 22 field goal attempts. That's 90%. He was absolutely dominant that year. And then he tore his ACL in the 21 season doing an onside kick against Mississippi State, actually. And he got up and he was grabbing his knee, and he finished that 2021 14 of 21, so 67% on field goals. So he wasn't very good that year.
He kicked the rest of the season with a torn ACL.
No, he was.
Oh,
he was
at that point. Okay.
he came back. He didn't come back. He came back too fast in 22. I read, and he was bad in 2022. He was bad last year too. He was 12 of 17. He was missing kicks. They said he didn't have the distance. He was bad from 50 plus yards. He after the torn ACL, he was 5 of 17 on field goals from 50 plus.
Not good.
And 0 of 4 in 2022. So not great. But he obviously has the potential, and he has the NFL ties. His brother is going to explain things to him, help him out. He's going to be a key for him to play off of. So the one last thing I wanted to touch on, well, 2 things actually. He's a 3-time academic All-American, so I like that. He's a smart guy, knows how to carry himself. He was 173 of 176 on extra points for his career, so he doesn't miss a lot of those. Don't want to deal with that. 183 touchbacks on 314 attempts. That's only 58%. That's not great. A lot of those may have came after the ACL injury, so we'll see if he gets the power back in his leg. Also, kicking in Green Bay is no small task. So people that were talking trash about Mason Crosby the last couple of years. Like, do you guys understand how hard it is to kick in Green Bay? It is hard. Same with Chicago. I give all the credit to guys that are good in Chicago and Green Bay. It is frozen. It is windy. We play on real grass. Like, it sucks.
It's a hard. I know. Actually, this is one of the things me and Simon learned when we were doing the stadium tour. Because I asked, I was like, "Why are the posts like almost a neon yellow?" And they talked about how Mason Crosby had requested that. I guess because with the background in Lambeau Field, it's really hard to see the cross and the snow. It was hard to see the
that makes
the
sense.
posts. So if you ever look at the posts next time you're Lambeau and pay attention to them, they're like a neon yellow.
Oh, wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too, Jake. Was it in the rookie minicap? Was the first time he was kicking without a brace in a couple of years? I believe I heard that he didn't have the brace on.
He had the brace on and everything that I saw, but yeah, I didn't see the.
I just saw a video of him the other day, and he was kicking like 50-yarders. He made like 6 in a row, and he was just in shorts and a tank top and no brace.
Well, if he's got that 2020 form, man, we got a freaking steal in the 6th round. I really feel that.
The thing that Rich Bisaccia talked about with him, especially with his size, is like the leg level.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have massive strides for a guy who's 6'5". So having that figured out, and then Gutekunst talked about it, and Gutekunst alleviated concerns of kicks outside 40 yards, just about keeping him healthy. So they believe that his health is going to be a big part of him making those kicks. And then he said that he trusts Rich Bisaccia's track record at developing kickers and special teamers.
Yeah, I don't worry about special teams anymore. We're good.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
We might have one of the best special teams units in the league this year, if Carlson can kick.
Wild times, baby. Wild times in Green Bay.
you guys are hot. I think you guys is like, okay, so I will say this. Outside of Keyshawn Nixon, who pretty much saved our special teams ass last year, they were not that good. They had like, what was it, New York? They had a block punt. There's a couple block kicks this year. Like, this special teams unit still has a long way to go.
Okay, now tell me how many guys were re-signed for special teams.
I'm just saying, before you guys get the hype train going too much, I think we forget that.
And we didn't go as far as to say that special teams is going to be the best phase of the team or anything like that yet.
Now I also want you to remember where we were. Right?
Yes, I agree.
And where we are now.
I would say slow down the hype train a little bit.
That's why I said wild times in Green Bay.
Just get off the track when the train's coming through, all right?
I'm not saying it can't be good. I'm just saying, like, there was a lot of mishaps last year, too.
Well, we brought Jaden Reed in. We didn't talk about it, but he had 3 return touchdowns for punt return touchdowns in his career. So I think
including the 2 that were called back?
I'm not sure.
Oh. Well, there was a couple called back.
Now he has 5.
So maybe he had 5.
Yeah.
So he had 5.
So now you're just making yourself
let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Hey, you remember back in 2011 when Randall Cobb had a return touchdown for his first career touchdown? Jaden Reed coming up.
I would shit my pants.
His first one. Only if we can get John Kuhn back on the team.
No.
Nope. I'm off board. I'm done.
That was the only reason that play happened. Yeah. You guys don't when
you held them up
during the kickoff. Yeah, you like held them up. That was the only reason I said that.
Yeah. I know.
Not for any other reason.
I don't need to hear the crowd go.
Like, let's bring Clay Matthews back this year.
Yeah, I bet we could bring Eddie Lacy back. He's probably the size of John Kuhn.
I mean, he didn't join for the Culvers.
Okay, so Bryant has our next guy, Carrington Valentine. This might be one of the surprising fallers of the draft, and where the Packers weren't in the market for a corner, but saw this dude fall 2 rounds later than he should have been picked, and we're like, I mean, fuck it, if nobody's gonna grab him, we will.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I've seen anywhere between him being projected as being a priority free agent to where I think Mel Kiper had him on his best available for 2 rounds. Like, the dude was on that screen all day, and I was like, when is someone to take him? Finally, we took him. So good size. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds, around a 4.40. He definitely has a physical traits, but he's going to be more of a man corner. He definitely needs to improve on his instincts and his body control. He had trouble on double breakers and stuff like that, so he could get burnt in zone coverage. So he's going to need some work there. I think he's going to have to cut his teeth as a special teamer right away to stick on this team. But I feel like his best football is still ahead of him. He's only 21 years old. He's still improving. He seemed to get better every year. He needs to become a little bit of a more of a willing tackler. But he's definitely confident, and we love our confident corners, right? Like Jaw. So when asked, he said, Carrington said, I feel like I'm the best press man corner in this draft class. I win against the best competition in the country in the SEC compared to all the guys who are getting the hype and stuff like that. With how I covered those guys compared to them, it looks different, and it is different. I just feel like you can turn on the tape and look at it. So he's pretty confident in his ability. And he's right. Like, think about it, how many wide receivers that got drafted out of the SEC this year. I mean, Tennessee had 2 go back-to-back in the second round or whatever it is. So a lot of times he was covering these people. So he definitely he's going to need to improve. I don't think he's going to come out and start. I doubt he sees many snaps this year at anything other than special teams if he's even active. But I definitely, with just turning 21, I feel like he's a really good developmental project.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you're looking for in the 7th round. So
exactly. Yep.
I think if you're gonna go watch a game of his, go watch the Tennessee tape. He's like all over Cedric Tillman all game, and he frustrated the shit out of him.
Yeah, like I said, he gets his hands on the person. If he's in the area, if he doesn't get beat by a double move or something like that, he's got really strong hand play. He can't catch the damn ball. He only had 1 interception and dropped several other. But like, so hopefully he can improve that. Hopefully improve that. But his hand strength was really good, ripping the ball out of wide receivers' hands and stuff like that if he's in the area. So if his instincts improve and he can like read routes better and stuff like that, he could be a pretty good steal in the 7th round.
He had 10 passes defense last season.
Yep.
One thing too with him playing press man is like, Green Bay is not going to use him correctly, and they're going to make him pay 10 yards off the problem. Receiver.
That's my concern. I don't know. I just hope we play like our what last 5-6 games on defense.
Yeah.
Spread away this year, and I don't think Jaw's going to let anything else happen because, like me and Jake have touched on a little bit when we were doing our schedule previews. There's some fun matchups that Jaw's going to want to be involved in, like Devontae Adams early in the year and stuff like that. Obviously, he wants to be up on Jefferson. So, DJ Moore is going to be in Chicago 2 times.
I'm excited, honestly, for Jair and Drake London.
Yeah. So
Drake London is about to get taught a lesson that day.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not.
I don't care how big you are, boy.
Yeah. He can't carry Jaw's jockstrap quite yet. So.
Greg said the Packers should bring back Lewis as a coach or mentor. If he's not on a team, I 1,000% want him back as like a tight ends coach, a tight end assistant, offensive assistant, however he would want to be involved. He was basically a coach on the field the last 2 seasons. Might as well just give him the title.
I think I don't think he's interested
where he didn't
in
want
that,
to do
though.
that. Yeah. I think
he definitely wants to try and play this year.
But I know he would go to New York, but I think I heard too that he doesn't want to go to New York because it'd probably be vet minimum and the taxes and the just cost of living there. He'd be playing like he'd be
breaking even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He'd be breaking even. So.
Alrighty. So the next
maybe
guy is Lou Nichols, and that is Simon's next player.
Yep. So Lou Nichols, interesting guy pick. Like I said, they brought him in on a top 30 visit. 5'11", 222 pounds, round 7, picked 235. Had an incomplete relative athletic score, but he did 22 reps on the bench and had a 37-inch vertical, both for around the mid 80 percentile. 2020, 78.1 PFF grade, 78 attempts for 502 yards at 6.4 yards per clip and 4 touchdowns. Also had 10 catches on 11 targets for 109 yards. 2021, absolute fucking monster. 13 games, 340 attempts, 1,846 yards, which led the FBS at 5.4 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns.
Damn.
He had 39 catches on 49 targets, which is extremely good, for 320 yards and 2 more touchdowns. In 2022, played in 9 games, was injured midseason, so he had to sit out a little bit. Really pedestrian numbers, 175 carries, 616 yards at only 3.5 yards per attempt. Had 6 touchdowns and also caught 21 balls on 31 attempts for 128 yards. So he's a good one-cut guy with good size and power, and obviously shows the ability to catch out of the backfield, which Green Bay loves. A little bit of versatility, has very good vision, and the ability to create yards after contact. He kind of lacks home run speed and has a tough time getting the edge, so probably not going to play a lot of outside running. Lacks the ability to create plays for himself if the blocks falter, and isn't really that great of a pass protector. I think he's an interesting pick. I think he'll be competing with Goodson and Taylor for that third running back spot. Honestly, he's probably going to go to the practice squad. I think they're gonna take one of those two with more experience in the system. They'll cut Patrick Taylor another 4 times, stick him on the practice squad, bring him up for game day.
I would like Patrick Taylor to make the roster. The guy's worked his butt off.
Yeah. It always stood out to me how, like, Jake and I went to the first practice last year, and Patrick Taylor was the first guy on the field. I've always remembered that.
He wants it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have the last 2 guys, which is Anthony Johnson and Grant Dubose. So Anthony Johnson Jr. is a safety. Gutekunst mentioned actually right away his high character, which is always something that's great to have in the locker room. NFL.com actually put him as a good backup with potential to develop into a starter. And for a guy you're drafting 242nd overall, like, I'll take that type of evaluation. He was second team All Big 12, which, it's Jake has said this before, and I know it's not, it is what it is, but the Big 12, it's one of the little brother Power 5 conferences. It's not the powerhouse that it used to be, but there are still good teams and good football in the Big 12.
Yes, sure.
Anthony Johnson is very physical on the field, and to the point of a lot of evaluators saying that he might need to just ease back a bit on some of his physicality because he plays so downhill. Greg said Anthony Johnson Jr. was a my guy pick, so Greg is obviously a fan. So,
oh yeah, Greg.
Pick. So his thought process was or is to earn a role and be a great teammate. That's what he said in his interview. That's his thought process. He's another guy. We're just going to slap the bumper sticker on there. Versatile. He's a guy you can line up in the slot, you can use in the box or deep. And like I said, he's a downhill 100 miles an hour type player. So that's where I'm looking at with Anthony Johnson. Is there anything else you guys wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, if you had to, like, make me put money on it for which player 5th round or later was going to play the most snaps this season on not including special teams, is probably him. I literally think that he has a chance. I know we just signed the guy from the Texans, but I think he has a chance to come in and earn a starting role. And Savage is going to get the benefit of the doubt, even though maybe he hasn't earned it because he's making so much money. And maybe he's going to, come with his hair on fire because he's in a contract year. But if he's still playing as bad as he was last year, you might see Anthony Johnson Jr. on the field relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So I think he has a chance to get going pretty quickly.
I do think Jonathan Owens is probably going to start alongside Savage.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're looking at who's your third safety. That's where I really think that Anthony Johnson Jr. has a chance to establish himself. And then as the season goes on, maybe compete for one of those starting jobs. Greg said word of the year, versatile. That very well may be. And I think that's kind of a Matt LaFleur scheme thing and definitely a Joe Barry thing about guys being able to do multiple things. And that's definitely something that trickles down from Gutekunst, because one of the things that he always says is that he drafts best player available because you never know what's going to happen throughout a football season.
That's fair.
So that's why Gutekunst likes drafting best player available instead of just trying to plug in, fit needs. So last pick of the draft for the Packers, Grant Dubose. This was Steve. Steve, I don't know if you're watching, but Steve wanted Grant Dubose, and the Packers got him. Brian Gutekunst credited him for being very good at fades, jump balls, and 50-50 balls. The dude makes tons of contested catches. So that makes me question whether or not he can grow into a very reliable red zone threat if they can continue to bring that out of him at the next level. He's 6'2", and like Jaden Reed, he's another guy who plays bigger than his size on the sheet. He plays bigger than 6'2", and that's where that contested catch, those fades, and jump balls come in. He has a very wide catch radius, which also factors into that playing bigger than he is. And over the last 2 seasons, these are his stats. 125 receptions, 1,679 yards, and 15 touchdowns.
Hell yeah.
I don't care that it came from Conference USA because that's where Aaron Jones came from. So you can miss me with the was it a small school bullshit because I don't care. If you can ball, you can ball.
Dude, it's
So,
2023.
the one thing-
It doesn't matter where you went to school anymore.
Yeah.
Dude, some
so,
of the best players comes from small schools every year, so I don't buy that stuff.
So one thing when you're talking about like small school guys, first of all, it's a 7th round pick. If he doesn't work out, all right. Secondly, he dominated them.
True.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just like a guy there.
Right.
And that's what you really look for. Like Aaron Jones dominated at UTEP. If you go back and look at his numbers, he was a monster. So you can definitely miss me with that small school crowd.
Where did Christian Watson come from? NDSU.
Where
Yeah.
did
Where did
Tucker
Tucker
Kraft come from?
Yeah.
SDSU.
SDSU.
I mean, Carson Wentz played at NDSU, right?
Yep.
So
And he
Trey
was
Lance.
having an
Jordan Love,
MVP type
Trey
season in
Lance,
2010.
yeah.
What's
Trey
that?
Lance played. Trey Lance was from
North Dakota
NDSU.
State, too.
True.
But Carson Wentz had an MVP type season in 2017 before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Billy
No,
Turner?
he was up there in 2017.
Oh, he was. He was.
If he stayed healthy at the end of the year, he would
would've
won
won it,
MVP.
probably. Billy Turner, NDSU.
Yep. So I don't really care for like, oh, he played a small school crap.
That's how I
People
feel
can
about Billy
play.
Turner.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Billy
like Billy
Turner.
Turner.
Billy Turner was a good free
He's
agent
getting the
signing.
bet. You know, he
I
left
mean, he
us
played
with a sour taste
poorly
in our mouth.
in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
because
He was a
he was
good
put
player.
in a bad position. It should have been Neiman
Josh
there.
Nyman.
But
Bro,
He,
he
in
got
my
his
mind, he
ass
cost
whooped
us 2
back-to-back
consecutive
years.
playoff games.
He got his ass whooped back-to-back years.
I got
dude.
it.
I hate that guy.
But I'm just saying he's still been, a solid starter in the NFL when asked,
was really good in the
not
regular
to play in
season.
a position that he's,
Nope. I'm not in the mood to have that conversation right now because I hate him because he got his ass whooped on
I'm just
national
saying
television.
a lot of really good players come from schools that you don't typically.
Right.
I know. I agree with you.
You know,
but I just hate Billy Turner.
Greg said,
David
let's have a
Bakhtiari,
dream year.
Colorado.
Greg said, let's have a dream year of Green Bay playing and
Galaga,
executing like that
Iowa.
late game versus the Vikings. One of my favorite videos of the year was a check down from the Vikings, and the receiver had 5 Green Bay defenders surround and smash them.
Hell yeah.
That Vikings game was so fun because it set up the Packers in
go
a
back and
win you're
watch
in
that.
situation. That Vikings game was just
Blew
special
it.
teams touchdown, defensive touchdown, offensive touchdown, beat down.
What was the Vikings game? The game where Quay Walker just dumped some dude on his face. Was that game?
Probably.
Everything
yeah.
happened.
I'm excited for Quay Walker, but man, he needs.
I am too. I think he kind of learned his lesson after last year.
He'll be all
Obviously,
right.
we'll see, but I'm
He'll be
excited for
fine.
Quay Walker too.
I think he could be a monster this
he
year.
could be really. He started putting it together at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
There's
He
a lot of
definitely killed that sideline to sideline, man.
there's a lot of players who need to have a bounce back year, and if they bounce back, this team's going to surprise some people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
honestly, like it seemed like an inordinate amount of players had like taken
A down
step
year,
back
yeah.
last year. It was kind
I
of
think injuries played a part in some of that as well, like
Yeah.
DeAndre Campbell, for example.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I remember when we got Preston Smith, we were talking about it. Or I was talking to somebody. And I was like, it's really weird because he goes like 4 sacks, 8 sacks, 4 sacks, 8 sacks. Last year he had just 4 sacks. Now this year, hopefully he comes back, at that 8. So it's gonna be interesting. So him, Devondre Campbell, if Devondre Campbell comes back, bounce back. Kenny Clark had not a great season. Josh struggled in some situations too.
A.J.
I
Dillon.
don't think So AJ Dillon was a big
you guys
one.
see the
So
quote about AJ Dillon?
Yes.
what was
Ooh,
it?
Got me excited. The
Was
coaches
it the
want
one-
him to run angry again.
on.
Or
You're talking about the one on
Angry
Twitter.
running. He's got that dad strength now. Legit dad strength. So
You're
it's
talking about
coming.
when on Twitter when someone called him out for like getting tackled at the
No.
No, that was different.
This was an actual somebody who matters that said something about him.
Oh, okay.
It was during all the positional coach interviews that have happened
Yeah.
over the last couple of days that they want to see AJ Dillon run more aggressively.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they want to
Which,
see
I mean,
people
for a
bouncing
dude that
off him again.
size, oh,
Yeah.
You know, we keep talking about red zone. I was thinking about this when you said that about DuBose. You know, we keep talking about red zone. We got the tight ends. You know, we got AJ Dillon and It's Bryant sadly keeps bringing up this stat about Aaron Jones where he only got 2 carries inside the 5-yard line, which really just makes me want to strangle somebody. But we just have so many options, and now we have a more mobile quarterback. Not that Rodgers was like immobile, but I mean he's 38 years old, right?
As the year got
He's 40.
further on, he got less mobile.
That's why when he outran Ramsey a couple years ago, it was kind of like,
Oh,
why are you getting outran by him, bro? He's a grandpa. Like you're called the best corner in the league. That's bad look for you.
he had one versus the Vikings last year too.
Yeah, I know, dude. You can't get outran. That's just-
AJ Dillon's entering a contract year too, so I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
like
I'm all in favor of signing him to a cheap deal now, and then watching him ball out and having that cheaper contract look like a masterclass.
I think
I'm
he's
really in favor of doing that.
just based on what I've seen from his Twitter stuff too. Is like I think he would love to stay in Green Bay.
he
Like,
does not
he
want to
would-
leave Wisconsin.
yeah.
He's a mayor of Door County.
Dude, we literally brought up, Kraft and Musgrave like fitting in the Green Bay. Talk about a guy that just fit in from day one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
AJ Dillon was just like, okay, I'm going to Green Bay. I'm going to make myself acclimated with my surroundings. And he was one of the first people I saw share the post of Green Bay was voted the #1 city in America to live.
yeah.
And he was like, he was like mocking people. Why do you live in Green Bay in the offseason? And then he shared that, and it was like, dude, I love this guy.
Him and his wife probably love it there. I mean, it's probably it's quiet, and
Yeah.
from all accounts, it sounds like Green Bay residents are used to. I mean, they're still gonna fangirl and fanboy a little bit when they see the players, but for the most part, they're not gonna surround them or bother them so much, so they can go out in the community and probably not be swamped with people bothering them and stuff like that. Because I know there's times that Aaron Rodgers would just go to the grocery store there, like himself. So
So
It's
this
gonna
is
be a
the
whole
first
Midwest
time-
nice
New
here.
York, dude. It's a whole
Yeah,
new
it's
world.
not gonna work in New York.
This is the first time I've ever seen AJ Dillon's full name because I was looking up where he's actually from. His full name is Algiers Jamil William Dillon Jr.
I don't like it. His name's AJ.
I,
I don't like any of that.
So
You're gonna
he's from
forget that?
Baltimore, which actually kind of makes sense.
Forgetting all of that. I didn't like it.
I mean, he's from Baltimore. I can't imagine why he likes living in Wisconsin.
Why?
He's not getting rained on.
Hey, I can say that I lived right next to Baltimore right now, and I can tell you you have to stay in the Inner Harbor if you really want to feel secure.
Dude, I went there. I took a wrong turn. I said, turn around now. Turn around now.
There's a couple good places outside the Inner Harbor, but
Yeah. Well, Harper's, what is it called?
to stay away from West Side, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pop up Michael's comment here. Michael said 13 picks. I like the multiple picks at D and tight end, D line, wide receiver. Lots of new versatile talent. That's been the word of the day. Excited to see how this team develops. National naysayers not expecting much. I see us being okay. And I think as far as initial feelings on how the team's going to be in 2023, I think a lot of us are feeling the Packers will be somewhere around 500, maybe a little above or a little below. And that's kind of where our expectations are. None of us are expecting the Packers to light the world on fire. But with the way we do our show, we choose to see the optimistic side of it, but also to have reasons to go with that. So basically what I've been saying is I expect the Packers to be somewhere around 7-10 with the upside of being something like 10-7.
Yeah.
That's
Think
where I'm
about where Green Bay Packers are right now, too, in comparison to our division. We know who we want to be our quarterback this year and next year because we gave him the extension. You can't say about the Vikings because there's been a lot of chatter about moving on from Kirk Cousins. Can't say that about the Lions because I don't think Jared Goff is good enough to get him over the hump, even though he had a really good year. But they took Hendon Hooker, right?
Yep.
And then say Chicago fans will have you thinking that Justin Fields is for sure their starter for the next however many years. I'm telling you, if that team finishes like 5-6 wins again, I think they're going to start moving. They're going to look to move on from Justin Fields.
especially
he's
if
had plenty
they
of-
invested in the offensive line.
Yeah, and he has plenty of talent around him at this point. Like,
yeah.
if he can't get the job done this year, I think they're probably going to be at their wits' end with him because this is right around the time I think they gave on Trubisky too. They're like, okay, got to go somewhere else. So we'll see.
He's going into year 4, right? Year 3, year
Right.
4.
Year 3.
It's his third
So-
year.
It's his 3rd year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Last year when I was talking to Bears fans, they were like, it's basically his rookie year. I'm like, yeah, it's not how that works. Okay, Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
But
This
then
is Love's
anyways,
rookie year.
I feel like it would be a mistake for the Lions to move on from Goff so quickly.
I
feel like
think
he
they'll give him
really
like a
fits that
2-year
team.
deal or a 3-year deal.
You think so?
I think they'll give him a small deal, kind of like what Seattle did for Geno.
Gino? I think
maybe
it
a
would be a
little bit more
mistake. I hope
money,
they
but
do it.
Yeah.
I hope
With
Goff
how
goes
talented
tomorrow.
I
that
think
wide,
it's smart.
I mean, how talented that roster is though. If they have a down year, say finish like something like 9-8, they're probably like, okay, we got to do something different because there's way too much talent on this team for us to be finishing that.
They
And I have
need
a
a
feeling
guy.
it'd be a
They're
lot to do
going
with
to need a
Goff.
guy at quarterback that's going to win them games, not just a guy who's going to not lose them games. Eventually, they're going to need that.
Yeah, and that's just like San Francisco. Everyone, like the fact that San Francisco is sitting, like I was surprised they didn't do something to find like a quarterback this offseason because everyone's just like, well, their defense is so good that we should be able to win with any quarterback. Well, guess what? What they end up doing a lot of times or lately is they end up in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl and they can't get it done because then their quarterback is either injured or just can't get them over the hump when they really need it.
Yeah, but you
Like-
want to know something? Having a good defense costs a lot of money. You know what else costs a lot of money? A quarterback.
Yeah,
Ask
but they
Green
could.
Bay for the last 30 years.
I still cannot believe they weren't like doing anything they could to get Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco because his cap hit was so manageable this year. But
Yeah.
Is what it
If
is.
Green Bay would have traded him to San Francisco, I don't know what would have happened to the internet, dude.
Yeah. Either
I
way,
mean, it'd
though,
be
it's
cool
like,
because we'd have Debo Samuel, but
yeah, I think we can all. I think we can all agree that if none of us would put money on Green Bay winning the Super Bowl this year, like with an actual chance of return. So my thought process with that was like trade them to the best return because we're kind of rebuilding our retooling for the next year or two, and then our window's going to open up. Our goal is if Jordan Love turns out at all, our window's wide open again because of the young talent.
with as young as this roster is, dude.
Yeah. We have the
Dude.
youngest roster in the NFL.
Dude,
Do
if
we?
Love
Is that
in this
official? I haven't
draft
seen
hits,
that.
I think it is official. And then, so for this season, we should be looking for what Jordan Love. Remember Aaron's first year starting. I think we finished 6-10, but
Yep.
we all knew that he played well enough that he could play in the NFL. If Jordan Love can show us he can play in the NFL, and then we turn around and have 2 first-round draft picks next year, assuming that Aaron Rodgers plays enough, our window's about ready to it'll reopen pretty quickly.
next offseason
Dude,
would be fun.
if this is complete dream scenario that I have no really like factual backing on,
Mhm.
but if Rodgers plays those 65% of snaps, say the Packers get the 15th pick again or the 13th pick again, and say the Jets finish second in their division because I still think Buffalo's going to win it,
I agree.
and they have the 20th pick, and you can trade 13 and 20 to get into the top 5, and the Packers can take Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh my God, that would be so nasty.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
every
going to
Packers
preview.
fan would like simultaneously
Oh,
not gonna do what I was gonna say, but it's gonna be they're gonna lose it. Like Packers
Have you
fans
seen that one
lose
South
it.
Park episode with Kenny's dad?
You shut up right now. Shut up right now. You shut up right now. We've been good the whole episode.
So,
You be quiet.
so going back to like, I guess expectations for the Packers, I think that's another reason why I like the Van Ness pick because I think he's going to be somewhat on like the Gary pathway, maybe a little less of an extent, but like he has the upside, but he's going to take a little bit of time to really get rolling. And if we collectively kind of agree that this isn't a year where we're really going to seriously compete, this will be a good year for Van Ness to like kind of get his tools going, fill up his pass rush ability and stuff. So that's why I really like the pick. I think he has such a high ceiling too.
This year should all be about development because just think if he takes the same path as Gary, so in 2 years now we have LVN who's Gary and we have Gary who's even better than he is now. And then, that's where I'm talking that window is going to go wide open if that's the case.
Yeah.
And then we still have in 2 years, Jair's still only 28. So I mean,
and Kenny Clark's been 26 for 5 years now. So,
dude, when we drafted him, I was like, "Who the hell?" And then somebody was like, I think it was our buddy Jason. He was like, "He's only 20 years old." I was like, "Never mind, I'm on board. I'm on board." This
You're
guy's
talking
gonna play.
Jaw?
No,
Kenny Clark. When Kenny was drafted,
he was 20 when we
he was
drafted him.
I remember being like,
I don't even know how that happens. What do you start college football at
No, you
17?
go 3 years and when you're 17 and you just come out. It's just funny like how big he was as like a 20-year-old too, because like even like you're still growing as an adult when you're like 20 some years old, up until you're about 25ish. So it was just funny to see like a 300-pound man at 20 years old, dude.
Alrighty. Anything else you guys want to say about this year's draft class?
God, I'm
very
fucking
excited.
pumped.
Very excited.
All right.
How many picks do you actually think land on the roster, realistically?
So this front office is very like hesitant to cut anyone they just drafted. So I bet like minimum 11 of the 13 end up on the roster.
I was gonna say 9.
I don't think.
I think Lou Nichols goes to practice squad.
Yeah. So I think we'll
I think
cut
Carl
some.
Brooks probably goes practice squad too, and
I'd be
Carrington Valentine.
I'd be really surprised if Carl Brooks going to the practice squad because I don't know that with his sheer like acumen of what he did in college that he'll clear waivers.
I think we'd take like 11 of these guys on the
That's
roster.
I think 11 out of 13 is. I could see Corey or Carrington Valentine and
Lou
Lou Nichols. But I think we would cut him early enough to get him on the practice squad early enough.
Right.
That'd be
What
awesome.
do I know?
I just work here.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I know it's a sensitive subject for some, maybe not for others, but 2 weeks from today will be our Aaron Rodgers thank you episode. All 4 of us, despite being sad that he's no longer a Green Bay Packer and being excited for Jordan Love moving forward. June 2nd is going to be our Thank You Aaron Rodgers episode. It's going to be our top 5 moments from Aaron Rodgers' career. It's not going to be what we think are the top 5 moments of his career. It's going to be what the top 5 things are that Jake remembers from Aaron Rodgers or his top 5 favorite memories from Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be Simon's top 5 memories from his, time with Aaron Rodgers. And it's going to be mine and Bryant's. So we're all going to have different 5 ones. So, yeah,
I'm sure some of them will overlap.
We're gonna have a thank you Aaron Rodgers episode. So, and we are still on the fence, still working it out, but we may include Mason Crosby in it as well, because it does appear so far that Mason Crosby won't be back. But we get the old "the doors never closed" comment, but we'll see if anything else develops within the next 2 weeks. But yeah,
It's like
that's
when
the
your wife
plan.
says, "I'll think about it." That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I feel about that whole thing. The answer is no.
That never means yes.
Alrighty, Jake will be back on Wednesday to talk some more Brewers baseball, and that's pretty much where we're at. So we will be back on Wednesday, and Simon and Brian will be back in 2 weeks.
And hopefully seeing everybody there on Monday.
Monday, if you're at the Brewer game on Monday, come find us. We will post where we are when we know where we are. All right, see you guys later.